revenue without selling. I've wondered, how can we do that? And we're going to learn about this today. I'm Joanne Black, considered America's leading authority on referral selling and the author of 2 books, No More Cold Calling and Pick Up the Damn Phone, How People, Not Technology, Seal the Deal. Please welcome Jim Haran. He's president of the One Page Business Plan Company, and he was the impetus for this webinar today. Now, in 38 minutes, I've promised to share with you 5 ways to kill your reputation on LinkedIn, why LinkedIn is not a numbers game, and then we'll share some of the latest research from LinkedIn about social buyers as well as social sellers. And then when to ditch technology and pick up the damn phone. And speaking of the phone, we all know pretty much that Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone and got a patent on a certain date. We are having a contest now. So what was the date that Alexander Graham Bell submitted the patent for the telephone? Let's see who comes up with the right answer. I can see all you're thinking. You're writing questions in the box. There we go. We got the right answer, 1876. And I'm not surprised at all that Alan came up with that answer. Actually, it was March 7th, 1876. You know, that's 138 years ago. That's a long time. So Alan Meeker wins a copy of Pick Up the Damn Phone. Now, you will hear things today that are contrary to popular belief. They're my points of view, and you're welcome to disagree, but I encourage you to keep an open mind. Carve your own path. You know, if you stay where everybody else is going, you're going to look like everybody else. I want to expand your thinking. To begin with, let's look at what is social media anyhow. Well, it's a place to find connections, to begin a conversation, and to begin a relationship. Notice those words, find, begin, begin. There is nothing about sales in any of those words. Showing up. I love this quote from Woody Allen. 80% of success is showing up. And we show up 2 ways today. We show up in person. That's how we've always shown up. That can mean we're actually meeting people in person. We have a business meeting. We're at a networking event. We're at a party. We're on the phone. That's showing up in person. And pay attention to how we show up that way. We pay attention to how we look. We meet others, we smile, we put out our hand for a handshake, we look in their eyes, we have a conversation, we interact. Well, that's the behavior we need to bring to the web because we show up online now, and that's equally, if not more important, than showing up in person. This is how our webinar started. So Jim Haran reached out to me a couple months ago, and he said, Joanne, I read your blog post. LinkedIn agrees with me. I think it's the best thing I've ever read on social media. I want you to do a webinar for my consultants. And Jim has over 200 consultants in the One Page Business Plan Company, people who represent his program and sell it to other companies. So I said, oh, that's great, Jim. And then we talked on the phone, so we integrated the online and on the phone. And Jim was so gracious. He said to me, Joanne, why don't you open this up to everyone? And that's how we got started. We have over 500 people registered for this webinar today. So people really want to know how we can use LinkedIn to drive new revenue without selling. So here's the first thing I promised. 5 ways to kill your reputation on LinkedIn. And the first is that standard invitation, right? I invite you to join my professional network on LinkedIn. Come on. You know, that's no way to begin a conversation, to begin a relationship. You wouldn't walk into someone's home or into someone's office and walk right through and never say hello. Well, it's the same thing when we're online. We need to act as if we're in person. like we're writing a letter to someone. If you just send the standard invitation, it's like you're pushing a button, and you're an automaton. You don't care about me. You just want to push that button, and push that button. Actually, in 2 cases, I wrote to people when they sent me the standard invitation, and I asked them, I said, I'm curious why you'd like to connect with me. One person wrote back that he'd heard me on a webinar, and he thought it was great and wanted to connect. And I thought, sure, if he'd said that in the invitation, he would have saved me a lot of time. Well, the other guy writes back with a full page of everything he does with 3 or 4 attachments. Not interested, thank you. So I did not accept his invitation. Always send something personal. It can be as simple as, I saw you on a webinar. I've read some interesting articles you've written. I see you're connected to so-and-so. I think we have a way to stay in touch. Whatever you say, something. Look at their profile and say something. Just as important is to respond to an invitation. Not responding is rude. When you would get an invitation by email or in the mail, we still get those, you always respond, don't you? You said, thank you for inviting me. It's the same thing on LinkedIn. When I respond to people, I usually check their profile briefly. I may comment on it. I may offer referral tips, different things. It just depends on the person, and it really doesn't take very long at all. Remember, we're beginning a conversation. We're beginning a relationship. Here's an example of I responded to a person, and she writes back, "Hi, Joanne. I cannot express how much your note meant to me. As a woman salesperson in tech, I've been at a professional crossroads. Your quick note recognizing my efforts helped me to reset and focus on what matters and to believe in myself and trust my choices. So thank you." Well, I read that, and I was just blown away. And so I had to call and talk to Lauren, which I did. And here's her picture. And she said, yes, Joanne, of course you can use my name. Now, I had to go back and say, what did I write that got a response like that? And what did she write? Well, she congratulated me. I was in the infographic of women in sales. She commented on that. And then here is what I wrote, verbatim. "Hi, Lauren. Thanks for sending your personal invitation to connect. I appreciate your kind remarks. I can tell you're a true professional. Please stay in touch. Best, Joanne." Now, how did I know she was a true professional? Well, I took a minute to look at her profile on LinkedIn, and there was just something about it that just came through. Then I said, this person is really cool. She writes well. She knows what she's doing. So that little response meant so much to somebody. That only made my day. It made my week. And then another, when I responded, the person said to me, "This is the most impactful invitation I've ever received. I'm saving it as an example." Well, you'll see a picture there of crew, people rowing out on a creek. When I checked his profile, and by the way, this person is Sean Burke, Chief Revenue Officer at Kite Desk. And I got to know Sean because I was in his top 30 social sales influencers in the world. This is a survey they did. Some algorithm said I was in the top 30. I got to know Sean. When I looked at Sean's profile, I saw that he rowed crew in college. Well, my daughter rowed crew in high school. I grabbed a photo. This rowing club is right down the hill from me, and that's Mount Tamalpais. That's a mountain I can see. It's a beautiful view. I commented on that. And then he also got his graduate degree at DePaul University in Chicago. And my other daughter graduated from DePaul. So there were just these amazing connections. How long did either of these take? Think about it. Not long. If you wrote a personal note or an email to respond to an invitation, you take probably longer to compose your thoughts, but it means so much. Next way to kill your reputation is say, since you're my friend. Well, you know what? You're not my friend. I know that's a default on LinkedIn, but please find something to say and some way we're connected, because you're not my friend. I'm going to sit on the delete button every time you say that. And the next is, I need to see you. We need to see people, look in the whites of their eyes. I have a client who said, I don't know why I have to have my picture up there. I said, because I need to see you. People do business with people. Who are you? You need to get some kind of a professional photo up, but nothing when you're drinking, when you're on the beach, when you have your arm around somebody else. LinkedIn is a professional network. Act professionally. The other thing is thinking you know everything about anybody. You don't. You know what I choose to put up there. Now, you'll probably guess this is my family, but you don't know their names. You don't know if they're in any profession. You have no idea who these people are. They're adorable, but you really have no idea who they are. You're also not going to learn in my profile anything about my hobbies, my neighbors, my pets, the company I keep. You're not going to learn about my banker or my trainer. You're not going to learn any of that, are you? We're going to have another drawing now. Let's see how fast you can get this question about what you won't learn in a profile. Who was Al Gore's roommate in college? All right, let's see those answers coming up. Oh, Steve Jobs, John Kerry, Tim Burton, Tommy Lee Jones. Yes, it's Tommy Lee Jones. That's the person who roomed with him. And Silver, you're going to get Jim Horan's book, The One-Page Business Plan, and we'll give you the connection for that. Next question. What school was it? What university were they at? All right, let's see those coming in. Ah, Amber, you were the first one to get it, Harvard. A lot of you wrote Yale, but you know we really have to be careful about keeping those two separate. So congratulations to the two of you. Amber, you've won my book, my first book, No More Cold Calling. Thank you for playing. All right, so the next way to kill your reputation on LinkedIn, not a place to sell. There's a lot of people who say that they've gotten a lot of clients through LinkedIn, and I don't debate that. I've gotten a couple, but I'm having conversations with a lot of people, and that's only because I have been intentional about my LinkedIn strategy for over 18 months now, and it is paying off. I mentioned I was on the top 30 social sales influencers on Kite Desk, the top 50 on Top Sales World. I was chosen. I don't know what the algorithms are, but I say yes, I say thank you. So don't invite someone, please, and then pitch them. I will delete you because it's like you're being at a carnival. You're not being authentic. You've got that come on, and I don't buy into that. The other is not to use groups to promote your products unless you put them in a category. So if you have an event, like I had this one, and I posted in a group, I posted it under the promotion tab. But the discussions are a place for discussion, not for promoting and telling everybody about what you do, because I'm going to ignore you. Here's the big one. Never ask for referral online. Referral is an introduction. It's someone your prospect or your referral source knows and trusts. We're going to talk a little bit about more of this later, but never, ever, ever, ever ask for a referral online. Okay, I think I made my point with that one. And next, LinkedIn's not a numbers game. You know, we see this, we have 500 plus connections. We don't see how many. I actually learned this. I heard some LinkedIn folks on a panel, and they said it's not a contest. It's just over 500. Now, we can see how many connections we have on our own profile, but nobody else can. And we don't want to assume a connection is a relationship. So just because you're connected to me doesn't really mean we know each other well. One of my favorite quotes is from Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, his first book, The Startup of You. Well, maybe it wasn't the first, but it's the one I love. There's a big difference between being the most connected person and being the best connected person. And I've just ordered his new book, The Alliance, Managing Talent in the Networked Age. Haven't read it yet, but it's right here on my desk, and it's the next one I'm going to read. You see, it's really not the social intelligence we need as much. It's the relationship intelligence. People buy from people. And now let's look at some data from LinkedIn Sales Solutions. Research they did, and let me give you the basis of the research. It was an IDC white paper sponsored by LinkedIn, Social Buying Meets Social Selling, and this was in April of 2014. It's current research I'm going to share with you about social buyers and how we can connect as social sellers with social buyers. The decision makers are on LinkedIn. Look at this graph. 75% of all buyers use social media for B2B purchase decisions. And then the C-level and VPs, 84% of them are using for purchase decisions. Well, you know what? They actually may not be, but somebody representing them is. They're checking everything out on social media, checking us out on LinkedIn, seeing what people are saying about us. What is our resume? What is our brand? And look at this. Buyers who use social media for purchasing spent 84% more per purchase. 84%. Huge. And then social buyers make 61% more purchase on average. 61% more purchases than people who don't know social. The one I found very intriguing was this one, that social buyers actually have more influence in their companies than people who don't use social. 84% have more influence, and 56% of non-social buyers make those purchases. The research shows our buyers are on social. They have influence. They are buying more, and they're spending more. Well, how then does this intersect with us as social sellers? This is LinkedIn's definition of social selling. There's been a lot of definitions out there. I think this says it very, very well, that you leverage your brand, and that's your authentic self, to fill your pipeline with the right people, with insights, and with relationships. Again, I don't see anything about using the sales word in there. So how do we get those results as a social seller? We need to provide wisdom, knowledge, and insights. Now, our buyers get tons of information online, and we all do it all the time. We check everything out. We check websites out. We check profiles on LinkedIn. We check their Twitter stream. We check what people are saying every place. We do it all the time. What's out there is information. Information is not knowledge. Information is not insights. There's research that says something between 67% to 75, 80% of the buyer has already made the buying decision before they talk to a salesperson. Well, if you believe that, you have no career. Why would you believe that? They have done maybe 67 to 80% of their research and gotten information. But how many times have you said to a buyer, well, I see you're interested in the red one. And then you have a conversation, and you find out it's not the red one, it's not the green one, it's something that they didn't even anticipate. Now, I'm not talking about someone who's a commodity purchaser. I'm talking about those of us who sell solutions, and we have a conversation. We get information. You see, we are smarter than our buyers. I was referred and introduced to the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and I learned a lot in the conversation. And I got in there because I was introduced and referred by someone he knew and trusted. But he said to me, he said, Joanne, I don't want salespeople pitching. I want to learn from them. I want their insights. That's what we need to communicate. So don't believe that they've made all these buying decisions. They've gotten a lot of information. But we're the ones who can drive the process. And this is how we do it, again, from LinkedIn. That we can grow our networks with social proximity. And we can grow our networks by inviting people in the right way. And then have that social presence. That we share information, not just our own, but content and information from others that our audience wants to hear. I share so much other content. I'd say maybe it could be 80% other content, 20% of mine. I don't know if that's accurate, but it just seems that way. I find interesting articles on LinkedIn and other places, and we share it. I have a guest blogger once a month. I have external articles that I write an introduction to, and then I share the article, because there is such wisdom in what other people say and do, and we need to share that with the people who are interested in what we have. And then social capital. Before you reach out, you make sure you've done your research and you get a connection, and we'll talk about how to do that. And from LinkedIn, why sharing is important. So look at this. Sales reps that exceed quota engage with prospects 39% more than laggards. And that those who exceed quota have their updates engaged 98% more. So your LinkedIn updates, how people comment on them or like them, the people who are successful are actively doing that and having people commenting for them. So be sure you're in on LinkedIn and looking what people are commenting on. And you can click the like button. That takes a second. But it takes a little more time, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a couple minutes, to read an article and then post a comment. And when you do that, when you post a comment, everybody in your network sees that. And then they view you as a contributor. So here we use LinkedIn to socially sell. The brand we talked about, finding the right people, sharing insights, and then building strong relationships. Again, nothing about sales mentioned here at all. Now, the last thing I promised to share with you was when to ditch the technology and pick up the damn phone. And so here it is, my point of view, and this is a way for you to keep an open mind. There's no such thing as warm anything. A warm call, a warm introduction, a warm email, no such thing as warm. And here's what happens today. People are living in a warm call fantasy. That's what I say, because I hear them saying to me, well, Joanne, I've done my research on LinkedIn. I've identified all these trigger events. I know that an executive has left. I know a new executive has come in. I know they're expanding. I know they're contracting. I know they're opening office globally. I know all these things. I know also about our connections that we have in common. So therefore, I know everything. And I can send an email with my business case about why they should talk to me. I know many people are successful with this strategy. They've told me they are. So if that works for you, whatever works for you, if it's working, keep doing it. But the point is, everybody's doing the same thing. They're tapping away on their keyboards. Nobody's talking to anybody, and everybody looks alike. I must get at least 50 cold emails every single day. And the more I move things into junk, it seems I get even more. why is this nonsense happening? Well, part of it is, I think, because as salespeople and companies, we're not making this up. Someone's telling us we have to do it. But this is not a way to work to be different from your competition. You need to step away from the keyboard and be different than everybody else. And as I said, never, ever, ever ask for an introduction on LinkedIn. Never just take a name. A referral means you have an introduction. And without an introduction, your connection is ice cold, whether it's a phone call, an email, through social media, or even that cold knock on the door. And yes, that still happens. When you get that introduction, the gatekeeper's on your side. Actually, there's no gatekeeper. I told you about the conversation with the CEO. Well, I called, and I spoke to his assistant. And I said, is the book still on his desk? Because that's what my contact had asked me to send in the book. She says, oh, yes, it is. I said, well, I'd like to talk to Mike. She said, let me get back to you. The next day, she called, and I had a meeting 3 weeks from then. Well, of course, in the meantime, I scrambled. I went back to my referral source, found everything I knew, because as a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, there's not a lot on him in LinkedIn, but there's a lot other places. So the gatekeeper disappears. And you want to ditch technology because you never want to ask for a referral online. A referral means we give that because I know you and I trust you. My reputation's on the line, so I really need to know why you want an introduction. And by the way, you don't know because you see you're connected on LinkedIn if your referral source actually knows the person. I was referred to someone named Jim, and I was warned that he accepts every LinkedIn invitation. There were times we used to do that. People aren't doing that as much anymore. But I talked to Jim, and he said, I have no clue who that person is, but Joanne, tell me what you're looking for. I told him, and he made an introduction to someone else. That's why we need to have the conversation. We need to reconnect. We need to learn about the relationship. How close is it? How do they know him? And then you really need the time to reconnect, to find out about the other person and find out how you can help them, because this is a two-way conversation. And what happens now, if you are not picking up that damn phone and having a conversation, you truly are giving sales a bad name, and you've chickened out because you are hiding behind technology and you're not having the conversation with the person you need to talk to who's going to introduce you to exactly your buyer. It is always about the conversation and about the relationship. And on top of that, people have told me when they've received an email or a LinkedIn request to introduce them, they're really pushed out of shape. They're saying that person is just assuming I'm going to introduce them. Why should I? You don't want to get a referral source looking like that. So here's when to ditch the technology. You want to take your conversation offline. You need to find out if they know your prospect. Share with them the business reason why you want that introduction. Then you're going to ask them to introduce you. That is the definition of a referral. The best thing is to have them get the okay from their connection first. And then they can send an email introduction. They can make a phone call if they're close by and if they're a close relationship. Maybe you all want to meet in person. You'll decide that. Bottom line, technology is threatening our personal connections. It's bleeding into our personal lives. Why is it now okay for people to be checking baseball scores and other things at a table, at a dinner table, a lunch table? Why is it okay to take a phone call at a meal? We have a rule in our house. No toys at the table. Nothing's that important. It can't wait unless you're an emergency room physician or an EMT. There's been articles written about parents coming home and being on their phones all the time and not paying attention to their children. This is affecting our families. It's okay to put down the phone. One of my favorite quotes is from Jim Blasingame. Face-to-face is the original social media. And in case you didn't really get what I said before about introductions, the TAS group has research. There's lots of research out there about why an executive, replace executive with whatever you want, will meet with a salesperson. They will always take the meeting. They will always take the call when they've been referred and introduced by someone they know and trust. The phone's great. We all know how to use it, and it doesn't crash. So driving new revenue, you are the ultimate sales technology. Use technology well. Use it to be productive, to be efficient, to find out everything. It is a phenomenal tool, but nothing replaces you having a personal conversation. We need to talk more to the customers and contacts who really matter and tweet less. Eric Schmidt, executive chairman of Google, in a commencement address said, take 1 hour a day and turn that thing off. Take your eyes off that screen and look into the eyes of the person you love. Have a conversation, a real conversation. And I challenge you to do the same. Here are some LinkedIn resources for you. If you really want to take a deep dive, my colleague Kurt Shaver at the Sales Foundry has a LinkedIn score you can do in 2 minutes. And then Barbara Giamanco at Social Centered Selling. If you want more information for you or your teams about how to use LinkedIn, either of these people are phenomenal resources. My offer to you is I have a 14-question referral IQ quiz. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to complete. You can click the button to send it to me, and we'll schedule 15 minutes on the phone. But if you have more than 10 salespeople, I can create a special group quiz, and you can get the results for your team. And, of course, my book is on Amazon, in paperback and on Kindle, and also on Barnes & Noble Nook. And Jim has a fabulous offer for you, Jim Horan at the One-Page Business Plan. He said to me, he asked the question, are you confident about what your sales team will be doing in the next 90 days? I said, well, I don't know about that. And so his offer is a one-page 90-day sales plan that you can complete in 90 minutes. And I will be sending all of these links to you, but go to onepagebusinessplan.com/90-day sales plan, and you will get this valuable resource from Jim Horan at the One-Page Business Plan Company. And here's his contact information. He's actually here in Northern California in Berkeley. I think most people know where Berkeley is. And I'd like to stay in touch with you as well. I'm here in Northern California, just north of San Francisco. I invite you, if you like, to connect with me on LinkedIn. I would treasure that. Here's to great referrals, great new revenue on LinkedIn without selling.